Florida man claims to have been kidnapped by dolphins and forced to build an underwater city. Let's talk about it.
Oh my God, that I do. Somebody please say it ain't so. This man got kidnapped by some dolphins. They held him at Pigeon Point and made him build their city under the water. We're about to get into this news, but before we do, make sure y'all do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.
So Lee County Sheriff Department reported early one Monday morning of a man soaking wet on the shoulder of the beach, drawing blueprints in the sand. He was severely dehydrated and very disoriented. And what he told these deputies was he was taken against his will by a pod of dolphins and forced to work underwater with them and build these cities. So basically this big underwater construction project. And the man claimed that the dolphins approached him while he was swimming on the beach one day. And they escorted him to a site that was 40 feet below the surface, where they needed help building structures. And what I find interesting is that he told the deputies that basically the dolphins communicated him through a series of clicks. Now, y'all know it is actually very illegal to communicate with dolphins. It is said that dolphins hold secrets of ancient secrets, and there is a way that you can, communicate with dolphins. Dolphins are very highly intelligent animals. And he basically said that the leader that was orchestrating this whole project name was Gerald, and that Gerald is what helped him breathe underwater. He said Gerald handled the breathing for him, which I'm assuming with some type of air pocket or air bubble. But like I mentioned before, he had drawn an elaborate blueprint in the sand when he had returned to surface. And the deputies described the blueprints to be a little concerning. It looked like cities, towns, condos. And the man basically said the dolphins were satisfied with his work, his 3-day work of underwater construction. So they sent him back and they'll be like, we'll be back to get you for phase 2, because they're not done there. And the crazy thing is they sent him to the hospital and he was just dehydrated, but there was no trauma to the head. There was no signs that he was, delirium or anything. There was nothing going on with his mental. He was perfectly fine. But the weirdest thing of all is they did several tests on him, of course. So they found seawater and marine particles in his lungs, which puzzled the doctors because that suggested that he had extended exposure to seawater without typical lung damage. So what they found was basically information that let him know that he was very deep in the water and he didn't have any type of lung damage. And like I said, he said he was down there for 3 days. And another crazy thing about this whole thing is this man has a master's in aerospace engineering. And he has previously worked on deep sea technology projects. So it was like the dolphins knew that this man was a very experienced engineer that has worked in the deep sea. I don't care what y'all say. Some people trying to say it's a hoax, it's all made up. But it's literally facts that there was so much stuff in his lungs that showed that he was underwater for a long period of time with no lung damage. But this whole thing is so interesting. Everybody knows that dolphins are in cahoots with the sirens and the mermaids. I feel like they're trying to build some type of underwater kingdom for them. But this is crazy, y'all. Let me know what y'all think in the comments and if y'all heard about this.
To believe, but before becoming a flight attendant, I actually spent 9 years doing that. That's me as a marine mammal specialist working with various seals, sea lions, and even dolphins. If you want to see more videos of what I call my glory days, you can either scroll down on TikTok or I'll just make a little playlist on my TikTok profile. One of the reasons I actually believe this guy was kidnapped by dolphins is because I personally know how approachable and friendly these dolphins are and how easy it is to communicate with them. This is one of my old dolphins, Capri, and she loved her tongue being rubbed. So silly. Unlike how humans communicate with each other using our voices, dolphins actually use their teeth to communicate. We call it raking, so you can see it right here, or if you look at this dolphin's face, that's basically their way of saying hi. That might sound a little painful. For dolphins, it's nothing because they slough off that first layer of skin every couple hours. So instead of texting, maybe look at it more like Snapchat, which is another reason why I believe this guy's story that he actually was kidnapped by dolphins, because he still has the rake marks all over his body to prove it. And to those asking why the federal government has implemented the Marine Mammal Protection Act, making it illegal for us to interact with marine mammals, here's what we were taught. Back in the day, before there were any rules, there was the marine mammal tourist attractions. As long as it was documented, people were allowed to freely capture whatever they wanted to in the ocean. And if marine mammal facilities wasn't your cup of tea, you had the other side of tourism where you could swim with wild dolphins. Which all that was tourist companies going to the same exact spot in the ocean every single day and baiting these dolphins to come in with fish that they would throw overboard and allowing people to swim with them. As time went on, the government saw that captures weren't the most ethical thing. And that's when we also learned that dolphins can't tell the difference between a tourist company who's throwing out fish and the fishermen who are trying to catch local fish. And so dolphins became more of a nuisance at that point. And that, my friends, is why it's illegal to interact with marine mammals.
There's a lot of people out here that believe every word that this man said about being abducted by dolphins, because why is it illegal for people to communicate with these animals? What do they know that we don't know? They say that dolphins are some of the oldest beings on planet Earth, so they probably know hip hop, jazz. They probably invented it. This news is so international, so mainstream. They're talking about it all across the world. And on top of that, they're talking about it in the ghettos of America. This is a hotter topic than Boosie at the barbershops right now. I mean, everybody is talking about this.
And when I told y'all that the dolphins be talking to the mermaids and they be taking people up underwater and they be making people listen to them, and anytime you see a dolphin, a mermaid is near. And when I told y'all mermaids is real and dolphins have powers, y'all told me I was tripping. Y'all told me I was crazy. But as a person who believes in mermaids, when I heard this story, I said, you know what? This is real. I don't know if I'm too deep off in TikTok streets and y'all on the same street as me, but did y'all hear about the man who was missing for 3 days? And when the people was riding past, they end up finding him in the sand, buried in the sand, drawing a blueprint of an underwater world. Detailed blueprint. They called the police when the sheriffs got there. The sheriffs asked him, like, what is this? And he said that the dolphins had took him for 3 days. And when he was up underwater, they was asking him, how did you survive? How did you breathe that deep down underwater? And he was telling them it was another dolphin that was the leader that took care of all that, and you don't question him. Then he said that they needed him to build a underground world or whatever. He built the underground, whatever, and they released him because they liked his word. He did what he had to do. Y'all, this man went into details on how everything looked. He was drawing how everything looked. And the sheriffs even said his, 13, 14 years of being a sheriff, he ain't never seen nothing like a day in his life. Also, not to mention, he had no drugs, no alcohol, no nothing in his system. And guess what else? His lungs did show that he was deep down in water. And you cannot tell. Girl, I keep telling y'all, the dolphins be talking to the mermaids, and the mermaids be telling the dolphins what to do. And they said that he was talking to the dolphins by clicks. But y'all don't believe me. And y'all think everything in this world just you got to know what's going on. No. How do y'all feel about this story? I think it's real. I know it's real. Let's talk about it.
Bro is Gerald. Hear me out. Hear me out. Y'all should have never been blowing me up telling me to talk about it. I was gonna keep my 2 cents to myself. Bro is Gerald the dolphin. Make it make sense. For those who are believers, we know about mermen, we know about aquatic hybrid entities that can shift between two. Did you know you know? Hence Ariel, when she would go to the ocean and come back, even though allegedly that was the spell, they gotta put some type of whimsical in it. But hear me out. They found stuff, debris from the Gulf, the waters, that were inside of his system, but didn't cause any damage, right? Bro randomly is an aerospace engineer, allegedly, and he's everything that the dolphins was looking for, okay? Mind you, the whimsy behind dolphins is that they're very intellectual, they're very strategic, and they always have a master plan. Dolphins have been trying to reach out to the human race for so long, but it's banished, right? It's outlawed. First of all, why are they outlawing people having interaction with an animal unless there's something deeper there? All in all, my conclusion is bro is Gerald the dolphin. And he said phase 2 because he's going to keep relaying information to us. He can't give it to us all in one big chunk because he understands the human population sometimes can't catch up, bro. They gonna start getting the anxiety flared up and the PTSD gonna start going. He just knows that the intellectual scale, it's wavering. So he delivering it in chunks. The first piece of the puzzle is that there are underground and underwater cities being built and that have been built and that are standing right now. Hence Atlantis. They probably go by a new decorum, a new name now. Who knows what goes on under there. But the first message is that they are building more underwater cities we gotta look out from Gerald in phase 2 though, for the next piece of the puzzle. That's just my take. That's my take. What y'all think?
That Florida man that said he was kidnapped by dolphins and then they forced him to, build underwater cities and condos and apartments, I believe him. I fully believe him, because think about it. Mermaids are usually seen in accompaniment of what? Sirens. Mermaids. I believe them. There's a reason that we're not legally allowed to talk to dolphins. And he said, yep, I went out swimming and they pulled me and they took me underwater for 3 days. They forced me to build up. And then when we find him back on land, he's soaking wet. He's confused. But they did test. He's not mentally unwell. He's fine. The only thing that was wrong with him was he was dehydrated. They did a bunch of tests. They said he has no head trauma. He's not mentally confused. He seems fine. He's just saying this story. And then they looked at his lungs. They found seawater and marine particles, which is what you would find, like he suggested, he had been deep underwater. But he has no damage to his lungs that the pressure would obviously do if you're that deep down there, for it to get into there like that. I believe him. And then not only that, the dude has a master's in aerospace and knew a lot about underwater technology. And then he said they scouted him for a reason. I believe him. Oh, I know it sounds crazy. I know it feels like I got a tinfoil hat, but I believe him. I believe him, because think about it. Dolphins and sirens or mermaids are usually connected. And think about it. Every single ancient civilization, even before they started messing with each other, had their own version of it. Now my true problem though is because he said the leader of the dolphins, named Gerald, was going to come get him for phase 2. What's phase 2?
Oh my God, I just don't know. Are those dolphins hiring? Why did they pick that man out of all of the people in the Caribbean? They had to find him because they knew that he knew how to build what they needed to be built. He got the arms, the head, the leg. They put his ass to work. I wonder what they fed him. He probably was on a tuna diet the whole time he was down there. Lord have mercy. Is the dolphins hiring? Do they know lottery numbers? Somebody get me around some water and make sure some dolphins up in there. We need to chat. Maybe they know all of the answers to the stuff I don't know. Maybe they got the cure to the illness of humankind. What they building down there, man? He built jacuzzis, hotels. You would have thought you was in Dubai.
Risk my life to give you documentations, girl. I risk my life to give you documentations, girl. I risk my life to give you documentations, girl. I risk my life to give you documentations, girl.